Death by bad people or death by bad weather? Which should occupy more of our time and our treasure? Well, the president already on record saying climate change is the biggest long-term threat, but a brand new poll saying more than twice as many Americans think global terrorism trumps global warming. So who's got it right? Hi, everybody. I'm David Asson. Welcome to Forbes on Fox. Let's go in focus with Mr. Steve Forbes, Mike Ozanian, Sabrina Schaefer, Carrie Sheffield, John Tamny, and Rick Unger. Sabrina, who's got it right?
Well, the president absolutely does not have it right. Look, this puts the entire Obama presidency into sharp relief. This is an administration that is sort of putting the crucifying of children and the beheading of Americans and burning people alive behind climate change. This is sort of strikes me as absurd, but it strikes the American people as absurd as well. If you look at the Pew Research Center, they just did a survey. Terrorism ranks at 76% of Americans think this should be the top priority for the president. Climate change, second from the bottom at 38%. The only thing, closer to terrorism is jobs in the economy, around 76 and 75%. So this president is once again out of touch.
John Tamny, what do you think?
You gave me Rick Slot again this week, so I'm going to have to pick up something.
You seem so comfortable there. Go ahead.
I do. I don't know what's wrong here. But, without minimizing for a second the horrors brought on the world by terrorists, the reality, if you look throughout history, is that governments have killed far more people than have terrorists, and the numbers aren't even close. If you look at economics, governments around the world have caused far more economic hardship than some theory about weather ever has. And that's my problem when we elevate either one of these threats too much. What we do is we empower the very governments that have killed so many people and that have caused so much economic hardship over the years. I think we need to dial both down.
All right. Well, Steve, particularly when you're talking about global warming in light of this winter that we have here now, I know they changed the terminology from global warming to climate change, but still at the heart of it is their suggestion that this stuff shouldn't be happening.
Well, that's right. And since it's an unproven theory, they become more and more vociferous about defending the indefensible. And I'm waiting for some global warming this winter. Haven't seen it yet. And in terms of the point about government being a threat, governments become powerful because of wars. If you don't nip in the bud threats to your security, then you're going to get bigger threats in the future, which means bigger government. And so the longer we dilly-dally about the terrorist threat in the Middle East, in Africa, Nigeria, and what Putin is doing in Europe, we're going to pay a higher price down the road. So preventive action prevents big government in the future.
Rick, about global warming, I'm thinking of the New York Times headline last year that said the end of snow. Clearly the folks in Boston don't think that. But here's what the president said. Let's just play the sound clip of where the president's priorities are.
And no challenge poses a greater threat to future generations than climate change.
And we're spending a lot of cash on that, Rick. He's putting our money where his mouth is. $77 billion is how much we've spent during his administration on this climate change stuff.
Yeah, I have always been agnostic on climate change. I see some evidence that is convincing that it's real. I see some evidence that's convincing that it's not what we make it out to be. But to answer the question, I think it's all of the above. If global warming is indeed real, and I think we should all allow for the possibility without getting crazy, then that does have a long-reaching impact. If we asked people a few months back, they were much more concerned about pandemics because of the Ebola diseases. Right now, yes, we're all freaking out about terrorism. So I think it's all of them. They are all challenges. Even John Tamny's point is legitimate. There are lots of
things. What do you mean, even John Tamny?
Even John Tamny's point is legitimate.
All right. Mike Ozanian, we now have billions of dollars spent on electric cars, on tax subsidies for electric cars, and there's a suggestion that, in fact, electric cars don't save any greenhouse or don't provide any less greenhouse gases than regular cars because you have to produce that electricity somehow. So it seems like we're misspending a lot of money on this climate change stuff.
Yeah, just look at Rick's favorite company, Solyndra. The government has spent billions on solar panels, and we're getting only half of 1% of our energy from solar. Yeah, look, the government is supposed to do to steal John Tammany's words, very few things, but do them right. One of the things it's supposed to do, based on the Constitution, is protect us from foreign enemies. That threat is real. They're murdering people. It's rampant. And the president is not taking it seriously.
Right. Well, but on the other hand, Kerry, we have to point out how much money we have been spending. Since 9/11, it's over $1 trillion on defense and fighting terrorism directly.
No, that's true. But and we do want to have clean air, clean water. Nobody's disputing that. And our emissions have gone down because of the shale revolution. But the reality is the clear and present danger is global terrorism. Look, I used to work in World Trade Center Tower number 7. We had kits in our offices, food supplies, masks, all sorts of flares to prepare for another terror attack. And I can tell you, we never had a drill for a global warming climate change summit. So, you know, and we have never had as many people who are displaced. We have so many refugees, more refugees now than any time since World War II because of global terrorism, because of ISIS, because of Boko Haram. This is not fiction. This is absolutely real.
All right, Sabrina, which is it, though? When you come to spending, clearly we have been spending a lot more money on the war on terrorism, as many people think we should. So why does the president then say our priority should be global warming? I don't get it.
Well, here comes the politics, right, David? I mean, look, I know that the president's not running for re-election, but this is clearly a nod to the far left of the Democratic Party. Obviously, he's trying to appeal to the environmentalists who not only see climate change as the #1 priority for the country at the expense of jobs, at the expense of a growing economy, but who also look down their noses at any kind of proper role of government in terms of protecting us. They don't want to see us get entangled in another Iraq or Afghanistan, and I understand that, but this is clearly a lot of politics that's getting in the way here.
And John, even though you may not share our interest in the war on terror, you do share interest in all this frivolous money, I would say, being spent on things like electric cars that really isn't helping anything.
Yeah. Absolutely, and I think a good answer here would be to say, let's look at market signals. Obama, we all agree, maybe is not doing a lot about terrorism, but if it were a big threat, you'd think it would show up in stock market indices, but they're reaching all-time highs, so I think we can throw that aside. When you look at the environmental or global warming threat, if it really were the problem that those who say it is, you'd see beachfront property in Newport Beach, California, in the Hamptons plummeting in value. The exact opposite is occurring. The smartest markets in the world, the smartest money, say that global warming is a massive hoax. So if you want to compare the two, I think it's pretty easy to say what's the bigger threat.
Right. By the way, all the liberal advocates of the global warming theory have this beautiful beachfront property on both the east and the west coast, so they're not putting their money where their mouth is. Steve, I'm wondering, though, in the long run, whether or not the president's emphasis, whether his priority will affect our safety.
Well, it is, in the sense that we're not dealing with a problem that we could deal with fairly easily. Go back to the 1930s, the last time we thought we could ignore the world. When Hitler occupied the Rhineland, it could have been stopped with a few French troops. Instead, it took a world war, tens of millions of lives to do it. So preventive action now. And we made mistakes in the past, so what? Learn from them, but we got to fight this terrorism now before it hits our shores.
Last word from Steve. Meanwhile, big financial donors are betting big time. If Hillary Clinton runs, she'll run to the center, like her husband, not to the left, like President Obama. But is one of her first campaign hires proving them all wrong?